What do you feel like the Liberty ownership have done that's different to the other owners and the other teams that have put them in this position?
It's funny because I saw the Liberty while they were about to transition into the juggernaut they are today. I saw them back in 2019 when their current ownership group was trying to see what was going on, and they were trying to figure out, how can we really make this something? And I just have these memories seeing Joe and Clara Tsai sitting at the Westchester County Center, this like 100-year-old building that high school players play in. Like, not a very glamorous place at all, but just seeing them observe what was going on and just watch the wheels turn in their heads. I mean, obviously I didn't know what they were thinking, but it's a weird environment for billionaires to be sitting in, if that makes sense. You compare and contrast that with the cutting edge Barclays Center.
Well,
which
also,
is...
I'm not sure whether they had to get the 3 buses to get out there from downtown New York. It was like trying to get to a game there was, you just didn't go, did you?
In my case, I did, and I covered that team very closely, in part because I lived quite close to the Westchester County Center. And now I do not, but at the time I did. And that was what pulled me into doing this work. It was that proximity. But ownership essentially saw the potential. And so we talked about those owners of NBA teams that didn't see the potential. Joe Tsai and Clara Tsai saw the potential in women's basketball. And they really wanted for their WNBA team to be treated just as well as their NBA team.
I mean, you're coming from a city like New York. You know, it's no offense to any of the other states and the cities, but this is a global city. So if you've got a global city and a men's team treated like royalty, you'd hope that a women's team is going to be treated as such.
I mean, you should
hope
say that
is the imperative word.
Yeah, oh, right. Yes, hope. That wasn't always the case. That's what I will say to that. But the Tsai, they agreed with your sentiment. They thought that if New York's team could be one of the best, it would help catapult the WNBA to new places. And one could argue that that has happened. The 2024 WNBA finals and that championship that was won by the Liberty, I don't know if you've seen pictures and videos of the ticker tape parade, but it was such a moment of pomp and circumstance that media market just
ate it all up. Yeah. I mean, they do have the most iconic mascot in the WNBA. Red carpets. To me, I mean, she gets invited to more red carpets than some celebrities. So that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Ellie the elephant is... Some people would find it hard to believe if I told them, which I'm going to tell the two of you now, that Ellie the elephant wasn't always there. She wasn't always the Liberty's mascot. Doesn't that blow your mind?
What was Ellie? I can't imagine a lifetime before Ellie.
Before Ellie was this golden retriever dog. Her name was Maddie.
Oh, goodness.
She was named Maddie
Jackie,
after
you need
Madison
to expunge that. You've got
Garden.
to expunge that memory from you.
I don't know if they want you to remind the world that was there before.
So can I ask you about...
No, Maddie is beloved. And the Liberty, they... At certain times, they like to bring her back. Like, she made an appearance during the ticker tape parade in 2024. She made another appearance in the team's promotional video for the 30th season, which, God willing, will be this season. She's a big part of the team's history.
She's the OG.
But, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So, the success of the Liberty, which... you know, as a non-Liberty fans would argue, well, they just went and bought a team. But equally, the vision of the owners that started, and it wasn't a first-year success, as a build over a period of time. And
Correct.
so to what extent would you put the success down to culture that they've built or capital they've put in?
I mean, I think those are the two main components. And
Breanna Stewart helped as well.
yes, but you have to think about how Breanna Stewart was sold. Stewie was intrigued by the fact that she could grow her global brand at the same time as she was going for championships. And you could not say that she would have that opportunity in a smaller city like Seattle. And Breanna Stewart grew up in the state of New York. She grew up in a different part of the state of New York, but she's very close to her family. And the fact that her family could just drive or maybe take a 1-hour flight down, that's a big difference versus traveling cross country. And so, yes, getting Breanna Stewart on board was a major turning point. But I think something that has to be said about the Liberty story is that they didn't have the luxury that other championship winning programs had when it came to their draft capital. And so you take a look at the Las Vegas Aces. The way that the Aces built their team was in the exact inverse of the Liberties. The Aces had 3 number 1 draft picks in a row. And Kelsey Plum, who has since left and is now on the Sparks. You had Asia Wilson. And then last but certainly not least, you had Jackie Young in 2019. So 3 of some of the best players in the world in succession that franchise was able to draft. And then Chelsea Gray was just sort of the missing piece that they got during free agency. So the amount of homegrown talent that the Aces were able to work with, that was the foundation of what they've been able to do. For New York, it was a very different type of equation because they began this build during the thick of the pandemic. And so the 2020 draft, their only real homegrown talent, Sabrina Ionescu, she was drafted in 2020. Then you had this really strange period in like 2021 to 2022. Those draft classes were a little bit weaker. And so much so, the Liberty earned the top overall draft pick in 2021. And because COVID had struck and because college players were being granted additional years, that 2021 draft class was very weak. It was incredibly weak. And so Liberty traded that number 1 overall pick to get a veteran. They traded for Natasha Howard. And when you're not able to have homegrown talent like the Aces were able to have, you have to figure out how you're going to get that top level talent in. And that second strategy, that's free agency. That is pitching players that you don't necessarily believe that have been valued across the league and saying, hey, come build this with us. And that's how the Liberty were able to land Betnijah Laney-Hamilton, who is someone who has been integral in their build.
Instrumental.
And so much so, Betnijah Laney-Hamilton not being on their roster in 2025 had so many rippling effects. But that sort of illustrates the strategy that the Liberty took. Also, you had to hire a championship-winning head coach who I know the two of you are familiar with.
That was a big sigh there.
No, I know. But if you want to talk about the build, you can't not mention Sandy Brondello. I mean...
And her husband, Olive.
Correct. And they were able to bring and set and define a winning culture in New York that it's going to be on the onus of the players to continue it under the new coaching staff.
And look, we could talk Liberty for
hours
and
I'm sure,
because you also got to talk about the influence of the international players who they managed to bring onto their roster, and perhaps, Jackie, another time we might actually come back and do a bit more on that.
Well, Tony, that's it. What an awesome episode. That was just so interesting and really insightful. And I want to make sure before we finish off that our viewers know that the Sideline documentary series that was done about the Boomers is actually going to be available on our YouTube through all of March. So a really powerful and important docu-series, and I really encourage people to go watch that. As always, stay tuned to everything we're doing for this on the Sixth Woman podcast, on our YouTube, on our Instagram, Spotify and Apple podcasts, however you listen to us. And we'll see you next time.